my dad was sexting me again the other day. It was weird. Hold on, I'll call you back. What the heck is going on over here? That sure was spooky, wasn't it?
Hey, buddy, I'm home! Hey, what's the big idea? It's a mess in here!
Well, I was just sitting here minding my own business, and then your back scratcher came to life and started attacking me.
Cameron, that's not a back scratcher, that's my dildo.
What?
A dildo! Cameron, it's for sexual pleasure. You know, when I'm bored, I shove it up my ass and kind of really just get it in there. It feels great. I mean, it's for women and gays, but I mean, I just use it when I'm bored.
And what did you say it was called?
Gosh, Cam, it's a dildo. But why would it come to life and attack you?
Well, I have no idea why, but it reminded me of the first part of Earthbound Beginnings.
Earthbound Beginnings? Don't you mean Mother 1 or Earthbound 0 or what? Just review it, I don't care.
Okay.
For those of you out there who think of Ness and Lucas as those two random characters from the Smash Bros. Series that were in some game or another, they're actually from the Earthbound series, or Mother as it's known in Japan. Come to think of it, why did they rename the series from Mother to Earthbound once it came to the States anyway? And why is the series even called Mother to begin with? Oh well, that's not important. What is important though is how much the series has been overlooked outside of Japan. But as overlooked and relatively obscure as the series is it really as good as its cult following says it is? Well, let's start with the first game. Back in 1990, Nintendo fully translated Mother for release in the US as Earthbound, but due to marketing issues or some shit like that, they decided to cancel it. Eventually in 1998, after the sequel was already released in the US for the Super Nintendo, a beta cartridge from the first game popped up on eBay, and a fan translation group by the name of Demiforce dumped the ROM online so English-speaking fans could finally play it since Nintendo never released it. If you're a collector, it's not too hard to find an actual physical cartridge of it, even though it is a little pricey. But if you consider reproduction cartridges to be bootlegs, then you're in luck, because Nintendo finally, after 25 years, decided to officially release the original translation themselves on the eShop for $10. Even though I already own a reproduction cartridge, I bought this more or less as a donation to the series so we could potentially get future releases if Mother 4 is ever made. It probably won't be, but so what? I like to support things that I like. You can't expect to get things for free and then be mad when you don't get any more because they weren't successful enough. It's why we might never get a Kick-Ass 3, you ding-dongs. But aside from supporting the series, it's also better to use the eShop version since it offers save states, making the game way better. Enough history bullshit though, let's start this 3-part review off with Mother 1, or Earthbound Beginnings, whatever. Before you start your adventure, you pick all the main characters' names and then, oddly enough, your favorite food. Whatever. In games where you name characters, I typically just stick to what they're supposed to be, but since there's no default here, you have to look them up online since there's no instruction manual even in the eShop version. A minor complaint, but nothing too serious, since you need the internet to get the game in the first place. Unless you get a repro at a convention or something, but fuck you. The game starts off with a little backstory, and then you find yourself in the main character's room as the house gets possessed by spooky ghosts. And the main character's name is Nintendo, by the way. I like it. Fuck it. It's actually pretty creepy, and the music creates an atmosphere that draws you right into the game with dolls and lamps attacking you as you try to protect your little sister.
I love lamp.
Right away, I'm completely invested in the game and want to see more of this world. So you go outside to make it to the next town and die. I guess we need to grind here a little bit, no worries. Oh, but then you keep dying. Usually enemies in the first area of an RPG are relatively easy, but since this was made in 1989, fuck that shit. You pretty much have a 50-50 chance of winning battles, even outside your house. Your best bet is to fight one enemy, heal up, save the game, and repeat that cycle until you've leveled up at least twice. As repetitive as grinding is, it's something that I've never had a problem doing. For some reason, I feel this weird sense of accomplishment after putting the time in. At least they give you an auto option to move the process along more quickly. What's really annoying though, and this is probably the worst part about the entire game, is that when you have all your allies attack the same enemy and then that bad guy dies, instead of your second or third attacks moving on to the next enemy, you'll just lose your turn altogether since nobody's there. This was a common problem for RPGs at the time, and you really need to think twice about where your attacks are gonna go. It'll be a while before you have to worry about that though, since you'll only have Nintendo in your party for what feels like a dog's age. So in the meantime, battles are gonna be a little frustrating. Not to mention, getting Lloyd in the first place is a pain in the ass. But once you finally do get more allies, they start off at level 1, so you need to take the time to build them up. Gosh, there's more grinding in this game than the Tony Hawk series. And to make matters worse, if you die in battle, you need to walk your ass to the hospital just to revive them. Why does this have to be such a big deal? You get spells later on to revive your party members, but I don't see why it couldn't have been less of a hassle. On the other hand though, it does encourage you to be a little more careful to keep everybody alive, so I do appreciate the challenge. Since it feels like I'm complaining more than I'm saying good things about this game, let's focus on some positives. Some people may think the lack of battle animations is primitive or lazy, but I like to use my imagination for the enemy's attacks, so whatever. Pretty much every enemy you encounter in the game is odd but hilarious. You'll face farmers, insects, animals, vehicles, flying saucers, and hippies, just to name a few.
I don't want a white pussy, I want to buy some black pussy. I don't want to fuck it. All I want to do is...
The game's genuinely hilarious too, and gets really silly, like randomly encountering Lloyd's dad in a trash can as a minor character and being taken to jail for underage drinking. And maybe I'm the only one who thinks this, but seeing Nintendo's indifferent look on his face throughout the entire game makes its unique brand of humor even funnier whether or not his lack of facial expression was intended or not. For once in an RPG on the NES, non-playable characters actually have useful information from time to time, or at the very least have something funny to say. The graphics look really good, especially for 1989, at least in my opinion. It's very bright and silly, which is right up my alley, and everything just looks cool, especially when you get to Magicent, where the game gets even weirder. The story's pretty interesting and moderately deep for something made by Nintendo in '89. Basically, Nintendo's Pep studied psychic powers 80 years ago, and after your house gets attacked by spooky ghosts, you have to collect 8 musical notes to protect the world from aliens. The characters you play as and meet along the way are silly and entertaining, which adds to the overall charm, and that charm is definitely the best thing this game has going for it. There's just something different about this entire series from anything else I've ever played. Since it's the first entry in the franchise, naturally it's gonna have some things that just don't hold up, like having to select talk or check as opposed to having one button that just does both. I know the NES only had 2 main buttons, but you could have utilized start or select, dang it. But most of the issues I've mentioned really just have to do with the time the game came out when the standards for the genre were lower. I do wish there were more bosses though. It feels anticlimactic to finish a dungeon, for lack of a better term, and to just kinda go back outside after obtaining your new item. There's a few tougher enemies every now and then that can be considered bosses, but they don't even get their own theme music, so it just doesn't feel very bossy. And the final battle with Gigas, if that's how you pronounce his name, sorry if I fucked it up, is kinda boring too, with not much strategy involved at all. I won't talk too much about Earthbound or Mother 3 right now, but I will say, like most video games, the first is definitely the worst in the series. I did enjoy it and would recommend it if you played Mothers 2 and 3 and want more, but if you've never played a Mother game or Earthbound, if you're getting flustered that I'm calling it Mother, then I would just say don't start here. I certainly don't regret playing it, but I can honestly tell you I'll probably never play it again just because it's frustrating to deal with some of the primitive RPG elements as well as random battles occurring way too frequently. So with all that being said, I'll give Earthbound Beginnings a 6.5 out of 10. I couldn't give it a 7, but I did enjoy it overall, so a 6 was a bit too harsh. And that's how halves work.
Well, there you have it, the first of 3 games in the series. Leave a comment down below if you liked it or didn't like it. Talk shit if you want, I don't care. And it'd be really cool if you hit the subscribe button. I mean, I did get into a fight with an object that's been in Shane's ass multiple times, so... Plus,
So I want to say thank you to your loyalty, thank you for your support.